Good morning. My name is Dorothy Espelage, and I'm from the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I am very excited to share with you 2 decades of research on bullying, sexual violence, school climate improvement, teen dating violence. And my message is positive this morning. We can prevent bullying, we can prevent youth violence if we just simply look at the science. I want you to take a moment, perhaps close your eyes or take out a pen and jot down 3 skills that make you successful in your job. Take just a few minutes to think about those 3 critical skills that you need on a daily basis to work in DC, to work in the academy, to manage your job. Now, youth violence is complex, right? We've chased after simple solutions for many years, only to find that bullying is a public health concern, that kids feel unsafe in our schools, that 7% of our teachers are hospitalized because of violence in our schools. Simple solutions do not work. We need complex answers to a very, very complex problem. Now, we can go back and think about child development and recognize that the child is situated in a number of social contexts. The child learns certain things in families, from peer groups in middle school, from adults in society, in their neighborhoods, in their community. All of their beliefs around aggression and violence, and the fact that violence is adaptive in some context. That's a complexity that oftentimes our interventions don't address. What we need to do is recognize from the research the risk and protective factors that come together to place us at risk for violence or nonviolence. We have decades of research to show consistently that we can target these risk and protective factors. But let me also make it very clear that victimization and violence is a particular heightened risk for some subgroups in the United States. We have to recognize that if you're gender nonconforming and lesbian, gay, bisexual in our schools, it's not necessarily getting better. We have to recognize the growing immigrant population, the English language learners, and I could make a list of these. The reality is that victimization, there is high-risk groups that we need to target in our prevention and intervention programs. So for policymakers out there, please, when we have a bullying legislation, make it enumerated, call out these groups. Otherwise, they will not be the focus of our prevention or intervention. What we do also know positively is that meta-analysis of what we call social-emotional learning. Programs in our schools are effective. They're not only effective in reducing violence and improving school climate and improving teacher coming back to school and working and not dropping out of the profession, but it also improves academic functioning. If I'm a child in a school where I'm taught the very skills of social-emotional learning, I am more likely to have higher test scores than a child that's in a school where there's no social-emotional learning. Now, recall those characteristics and those skills that you need to be successful on a daily basis. The reality is, many of you mentioned things like anger management, emotion regulation, positive listening skills, problem solving, coping. I didn't necessarily mention quantitative skills, I'm a researcher, but patience, belly breathing, all of that stuff. And in some parts of this country, downright praying sometimes works for us, right? So certainly we do know from the science that social-emotional learning programs work. We also know from our work that if you're a student with a disability in our schools where you are giving instruction around SEL, you are bullied less, you're victimized less, you're more likely to graduate high school. We also know that, and I want you to pay close attention to this. The reality is the programming that we do in elementary school cannot be the same that we do in middle school and cannot be the same in high school. We have shown that bullying prevention programs are simply failing in high school because we, as policymakers out there, we want to say K through 12 programming. Reality is the meta-analysis show that victimization is increasing in our high schools because we're not taking a developmental lens. Keep that in mind as you write up the bills to say K through 12. Remember, elementary school is different than middle school, than is different than high school. What's also important, however, is to recognize that many folks develop programs and would like to have them implemented as intended, okay? So what is happening is that we have teachers and social workers that are pulling components of a program where the program has been deemed efficacious, but it's if you do the entire program. We've done meta-analysis with implementation data to show that if you implement as intended, if we give teachers time to prep, if we encourage teachers to use the content of the programs outside of the lesson, the effect sizes go through the roof in reductions of aggression and victimization, teen dating violence, and ultimately a stronger workforce. So my message is clear today, that we still continue to struggle to prevent youth violence, to create safe schools, but we are having success in this country. We need to continue to do this. However we need to do this, we have to focus on social-emotional learning, give teachers space and administrators space to do the work to connect with kids in the classroom. And I'm going to stop with one story. I got a phone call 2 days ago from a mom that says, I don't want my child to participate in your randomized clinical trial on social-emotional learning. I don't know why you have to teach that. You should be teaching math and science. And I simply said to her, your assumption is that every family in this country instills social-emotional learning skills in their home. And I said, if in fact that were true, I would retire, but I do appreciate that you don't understand the importance of social-emotional learning. And I said to her, the issue, ma'am, is that your child is going to be in a classroom in which they're not getting SEL training at home. And that is one place where many of us in this room, we did learn those very, very skills that make us great in our jobs. Thank you.